Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we are going to talk about some of former President Donald J. Trump's statements from his little rallies. He has made a number of statements about other former presidents and their document storage habits, and we're going to kind of go through and kind of look at those statements real quick. Okay, so presidents that Trump has in some way alleged that they took documents include Obama, Clinton, and Bush 1 and 2, to include a really bizarre rant about a former bowling alley. Anyway. So what he's trying to do, it certainly appears, is draw an equivalency between his behavior and the behavior of other former presidents. The most important thing to note about this is that the National Archives has already debunked all of his claims. The key difference between the situations that Trump is pointing to and his own situation is that in all of the other situations, the National Archives had custody of those documents, not the president. And I know it seems like that would be a really bizarre thing for him to do. Not the misleading his audience part. That's not bizarre. He knows they're not going to fact check him. But pointing out that all of the other presidents had their documents in the custody of the National Archives, that would seem counterproductive. But let me float an idea here. It seems to me that he is going out of his way to do this so he can frame it as a document storage issue, something that he's tried to do. He's tried to frame it in that light, that the only difference, the only issue here, is that the documents were in his custody rather than the National Archives. And that's not a big deal. He's trying to paint the whole thing, it seems to me, in that light, to make it seem really minor. But aside from the custody aspects of it, there's the whole question of them constantly asking for them to be returned and him not returning them. This isn't a document storage issue. Now, for Democrats, for liberal commentators, hear me out on this. Stop worrying about the Presidential Records Act. Just stop. I understand. It's a crime. It's something he shouldn't have done. If he did do it, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But let's be honest. Do any of us really care if Trump took his love letters from dictators? That's not what matters here. What matters are the documents that had national defense information, the documents that had classification marks, the SCI documents. That's what matters. And we have some questions that we should be asking, like, who gave them to you? What were you going to do with them? Where were you going to send them? When were you going to send them back if you weren't going to transmit them to a third party? And why did you want them to begin with? Who, what, when, where, why? Those are the questions that matter. And it's the documents that contain national defense information that are really important. I understand that on some level, the remainder of the documents, that's an issue. Because yes, they should have been returned. I get that. But you're talking about the difference between a speeding ticket and a really serious crime. It certainly appears that Trump is trying to get everybody to focus on the speeding ticket and ignore the possibility of an incredibly serious crime. Understand that when it comes to this, you can't overplay your hand either. I've seen reporting about a suggestion when it comes to what he intended to do with them. I have questions about that reporting. But most importantly, it doesn't matter. That's DOJ's job. As far as the crime, what matters is that he gathered national defense information and that he willfully retained national defense information. That is what would constitute a crime. The possible transmission to a third party, that would make it a more serious crime. But that's up to DOJ. We don't know that yet. And again, we don't know any of this yet, really, because it hasn't been tested in court. But the point that matters is not his love letters. It's not the fact that he was so infatuated with dictators that he wanted to retain this stuff. It's not the fact that he had sloppy record-keeping practices. That's not what matters. What matters is those documents that never should have left under any circumstance. That's what matters. Don't let him control the narrative. Don't let him try to frame this as some clerical issue. We want to know why those documents were there, why the documents containing national defense information were at his house. Who, what, when, where, and why. Those are the questions that matter. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.